Hey, what's up guys, Benny here and welcome to another Apex Legends video. Now, over the past few weeks, I've put a lot of time into Apex Legends, doing everything I can to improve and get better at the game, from playing with every legend, finding the best weapon combos, learning every tip and trick that I can to help make sure that I come out on top in every single game that I play. So, in this video, I'm going to teach you my top 10 tips so that you have a better chance of being successful in Apex Legends. So a lot of you may now be aware that every legend has a different hitbox depending on the size of their character model, and Respawn have also recently mentioned that in last week's update that they're working on refining each legend's hitbox to make it more of an accurate representation to each of the characters, such as bullets actually going through Pathfinder's legs rather than causing damage to him. But one of my biggest tips is to play to your legend's hitbox. Now, what I mean by this is that if you're playing as Gibraltar, for example, who is the biggest legend in the game currently, you don't want to be sprinting headfirst towards enemies running through doorways, because you're a much easier target to hit, which means shotguns at close range are going to deal more damage against you as more of the pellets will hit you, as there's just more you to hit. However, if you're playing Wraith, who is about half the size of Gibraltar, you're better off rushing towards opponents, running between bits of cover, because even though every legend moves at the exact same speed, you're just a much smaller target, making it less likely for enemies to be able to hit you consistently with assault rifles or snipers. And as I mentioned, if you're both using shotguns at close range, it's far more likely that as Wraith, you'll be able to come out on top than Gibraltar. So whatever you're doing in Apex Legends, think about the legend that you're playing as. If it's Gibraltar, try hide behind a wall, a rock, or a hill, and use that passive gun shield to give yourself a big advantage over the other Gibraltar that's running across the map straight at you and not playing to his legend's strengths. My next tip is something that I feel is so important in any first-person shooter in order to be consistently successful, and that is sound. Now, sound in Apex Legends is important to you for a few reasons, mainly enemy footsteps and gunfire, as these two sound cues are going to affect every single decision that you make in Apex Legends. So you want to be able to have the ability to be able to hear footsteps and gunfire as easily and quickly as possible, and be able to tell exactly where those footsteps and gunshots are coming from. Other sound cues that you're going to want to be able to react to are things like an opponent using an energy shield, or reviving a teammate, or reloading, so you know exactly when to push an enemy in order to get a big advantage and more than likely pick up the kill. So, there's two things that you can do. Firstly, in the Apex Legends settings, make sure that the game's sound effect volume and master volume is at max, and then reduce dialogue and music volume in the settings just to make sure that sound effects like footsteps, gunshots, and healing items are all as loud as possible in the sound mix. Then, in an ideal situation, you'll be using a good pair of headphones that will help you easily be able to identify the exact direction of those sound effects that you'll want to be reacting to. Personally, I use Turtle Beach Elite Pro 2s, and then you just need to take advantage of those in-game sound cues. You hear someone reviving, push them. If you hear them starting a reload, push them. If you hear an opponent coming up behind you, react so they don't get the jump on you and kill you before you even have a chance to do something. So start taking advantage of the in-game sound effects, and you'll start noticing a big difference in your gameplay. Now, as a player that's come from a competitive gaming background, one thing I'm obsessed with is how to do the best that I possibly can, and in Apex Legends, one of the biggest things that you can do in-game is maximizing your damage output as an individual and as a team. There are a few situations that you'll come across in Apex Legends, from 1v1s to full-blown team battles, and what you want to do is maximize the amount of damage you're giving out. For example, if you start firing at an opponent but they manage to get round a corner and you can see another one of their teammates, don't just blindly rush around the corner trying to get the down, but shift your attention to the other opponent, as you'll be able to output far more damage in a short period of time, putting a lot more pressure on that team, as they'll all need to attempt to replenish their health pools, which means you're more likely to be able to wipe the entire squad and come out on top. Yes, if you can, as a team, attempt to focus your gunfire on one opponent at a time to pick up a kill, but What you always want to be thinking about as your main priority is your team's overall health pool versus your opponents. There will obviously be exceptions to this. If you can be 100% certain that you'll be able to down an opponent as they're stuck in a corner, then down them, as that does take them out of the fight completely, but always make sure that it's a guaranteed knockdown, as otherwise you might get knocked down yourself and then you lose the advantage that you just gained for your team. But try to actively switch targets and maximize yours and your team overall damage output, and you'll find yourself being a lot more successful in Apex Legends. One of the best things you can learn in Apex Legends is your individual positioning. This is single-handedly the best thing that you can master in order to consistently do better at the game. There is never a situation in Apex Legends that you want to allow an opponent to have a better position in a gunfight, because even if you're a more skilled player and have better gun skill, there's still a higher percentage chance of them downing you if they've got a better overall map position. There are a few things you want to be thinking about to get a positional advantage. First of all, having the high ground is always going to help, as you can maximize the angle against your opponent, making it easier for you to hit them, but it harder for them to hit you. If you're fighting around buildings or chasing an enemy through a location, climb onto the rooftops and you've instantly got an advantage. Secondly, use the game's natural terrain against your opponents. Whether that's something as simple as a rock or a tree, or using a hill to reposition and get a flank on the enemy team. There is always something in the map you can use to get some sort of advantage. You never want to just be caught out in the open. Also, use the circle as a positional advantage. There's a reason a lot of good players will tend to stick to the edge of the circle as it's coming in, as it will reduce the amount of angles that an opponent can come at you from. Or if they're coming from outside of the circle, they'll already have taken damage and be under pressure to push straight at you, whatever positional advantage you have, which can allow you to pick up some nice easy kills. Your individual positioning isn't the only important thing to be aware of, but where your teammates are in a fight are crucial to gaining an advantage over your opponents. You never want to be stacking on your teammates. Firstly, you'll end up getting in each other's way, or explosive damage from grenades or abilities could damage both of you at the same time. And it also allows enemy teams to be able to coordinate and focus fire on you far easier. So make sure that as a team you stay near each other, but spread out a little bit. Everything I told you about individual positioning is still important. So as a team, you still want to try and do things like getting the high ground, but don't be afraid to try and pinch the enemy and pull off flanks. Try and draw their gunfire away from your teammates, allowing them to push up on them and hopefully pick up a knockdown. It's all about covering as many viewing lanes as possible, so opponents have less cover to move behind and are also more likely to make a mistake. Also, please don't leave your team behind. Apex Legends is a team game, and whenever you're solo, you're at a significant disadvantage no matter how good of a player you are, and are just going to reduce your own and your teammates' chance of winning. My next tip for you is to improve your awareness. Firstly, know where your teammates are at all times. For a few reasons. Firstly, if you notice your teammates start taking damage, you can have an idea in your head where you want to move or reposition to, so you can start helping out in the engagement. Secondly, if you get into a gunfight and know where your teammates are, it's far easier for you to know where to retreat to, so you don't become a nice easy knockdown for the enemy. And finally, it will allow you to know where your teammates are able to support you, or if they've got somewhere covered, which will allow you to move to a better position or to safety depending on the circumstance. Knowing your teammates' position is only ever going to be a good thing. My next big tip is actually something that I've learned from playing a lot of Battle Royales over the past couple of years, and something that's helped both myself and my team begin to do a lot better, and that's knowing when you're going to lose. If you know you're going to lose a fight, whether that's because you've already taken too much damage, they have way better equipment than you for the situation, like it's indoors and they've all got shotguns and you've got a sniper, or they simply have the far better map position, know when you're going to lose. And when you know you're going to lose, it's okay in these situations to run away and reposition. There is no point in you getting yourself and your team killed on the off chance of coming out on top in a bad situation. So take those few seconds to weigh up the engagement, and if it's not looking like you'll win, run away, heal up and attack them from a different position. In Apex Legends, one of the best things I've found to not only get some nice easy kills, but to also win more games is wait for teams to engage each other and then go in and third party both the squads. Firstly, they will most likely have already taken some damage and used a load of their equipment and healables and potential ultimate abilities against each other, which is just going to mean you'll have a far better chance of coming out on top. This is especially important towards the end of matches, because when there are only 3 squads left and you hear 2 teams fighting each other, you also know another squad isn't going to come up and shoot you in the back. So wait for teams to fight each other and get involved at the most opportune moment. Another thing to think about in Apex Legends is who should use what piece of legendary gear when you find it. For example, it's probably far better to give Lifeline the fast charge helmet to get more supply drops and healing drones for your team, instead of Mirage, whose abilities aren't really that great. But it might not be a good idea to give Lifeline the legendary backpack, because her passive already gives her a healing speed boost, so another member of your team might find it more useful. So when you find a legendary item, try and prioritize who should use it on your team based on the legend that they're playing with. And my final tip for you in today's video is to make sure you have a well-balanced loadout. Never be in a situation where you have 2 shotguns, so you're only useful at short range. Try to have a medium to long range weapon like the Wingman, and then something for close quarters like a Peacekeeper or R99. This means that you'll be able to help your team in any situation that you come across in Apex Legends. At the start of a match, getting a good loadout isn't always possible, but is definitely something that you should try and soar as quickly as you can. I'll be doing a video on best weapon loadouts in Apex Legends soon, so do make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you have any other tips you'd like to share, drop them down in the comments below. Smash that like button as well, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!